Hi, it's April Garwood from Banana Moon Studio. I'm out on my porch today. I'm working on spinning. Maybe a week or so ago, I received my Fiber of the Month Club box from Paradise Fibers. And I've been looking at it since then, trying to decide what to do with it. And so what I have is this really pretty blend that I love, and this one, which is like a South American wool that's got like nips in it. And I also have this brown one that's really pretty, and I thought that I might put them all together, but I tried that and I made this little skein of yarn, like it's really tiny. And I was pretty happy with it, but I don't really love the way that the brown looks in there with the blue. And that was why I wanted to make a little sample, because I wasn't really sure if I would like it. So I've decided that I'm going to leave the brown out. And for now, I'm going to spin these two blue blends. I also got this bright green Angelina, which is like a sparkly synthetic fiber. And I'm going to mix a little bit of that in when I'm spinning this blend. So anyway, I just thought I would come work out on the porch because it's a really lovely day, and bring the camera out here so I can kind of show you what I'm working on. So I'm kind of taking turns spinning the two different ones. I think what I just finished with here was doing some of this blend. So since I'm taking turns now, I'm going to add a little bit of this one in. I think I have more of this one than this one though, so I'm going to try to take smaller pieces of this one, or anyway, it's not very scientific. I'm kind of a fly by the seat of my pants sort of spinner. Not very scientific about things. But anyway, I'll show you what I'm doing. So I'm just going to pull a little piece of this off. And then I'm going to take just a few little strands, you can barely see those, of the Angelina, and just lay them on top of this. And then just add them into my spinning, which you just do by laying these two pieces together, and then you start drafting them together. So there'll be some kind of shiny green highlights in this fiber. This particular blend that has these nips in it sometimes wants to clump up in spots, and I've had to slow down and thin spots out. But I really love the way that it looks. I don't know how well you can see that, but I'm enjoying it, even if it takes a little thinning out in spots. I love taking my spinning wheel with me when I go places, except that I don't actually do it very often just because it's kind of cumbersome to take with me, but sometimes when I'm really in a mood to spin, I take it with me when I take my girls to their dance classes. So I've come to the end of that now, so I'm going to take off a piece of this blend. So pull that off. I'm going to spin this one from the fold, so I'm going to loop it over my thumb like this and hold this right along, like right along here, and I'll pull off from the tip of my thumb. I want to spin this one from the fold because it's kind of stripy, so that way my colors are going to be a little bit more distinct in the finished yarn. instead of just all mixed together into one color. Anyway, so like I was saying, I like to take my wheel with me sometimes when I go to my daughter's dance classes and work on it up there in their lobby. It's kind of funny how many people watch you out of the corner of their eye, and you can kind of tell that they're watching. Or even people who are completely unashamed to just say that it's fascinating to watch, and people will just sit there and watch for hours. I've wondered what it would be like sometimes if I took my spinning wheel with me downtown and just set up on a street corner and started spinning, if people would stop and watch. Maybe I had to do that and like set out a hat or a box or something, see if people will throw me change. So this idea of spinning from the fold, it's kind of taking the fiber out, not in real, not completely distinct colored sections, but if you spin from the end of this batch of fiber, then all the colors are going to get mixed together, and just pretty much your yarn is just going to be one, it's going to appear to be one solid color. Where if you spin from the fold, the colors stay more distinct, and so you get more of a marled or a mottled yarn, which I enjoy sometimes. So usually if I have a real stripy, or a blend like this where the colors aren't just really mixed together, I like to spin it from the fold so that the colors remain distinct. And towards the end, it just kind of comes off your thumb and you finish spinning up the last of it. Well, I've just finished spinning all the singles for this project that I've been working on, and it took a little longer than I thought it might. So yesterday was when I started it, and so now we've reached day 2 of working on this, but I finished the singles. I started spinning the singles onto this bobbin so you can get a good idea of what they look like, and you can see I overloaded it, but I realized at this point that the amount I had left was not going to fit on one bobbin, so I had to spin the rest of it onto this one. Because of that, I'm actually going to start plying by trying to get this on there on my Lazy Kate. Anyway, I'm going to start plying by just plying the 2 bobbins together. But since I obviously have a lot more on the bobbin that's down here on my Lazy Kate than I do on this one, at some point I'm going to have to take the singles that I have left on the fuller bobbin and wind those into a center pull ball and then ply from both ends of that. So I'm going to go ahead and start plying, and we can get an idea of what this finished yarn is going to look like, and then after that, I'll turn the camera off for a while and come back to it when I'm ready to ply it from a center pull ball, so that excuse me, so that you can see what that looks like. So I'm going to take this off my flyer and put an empty bobbin on my flyer. And I don't think I said this earlier, but this spinning wheel that I have, it's called the brand is Ashford. It's an Ashford Traveler, and it's been a pretty good wheel. There are little things at this point, now that I've got a lot of practice with it, that I might change about it if I could. but it's definitely been pleasant to work with. So if you're looking for a good wheel to start with, I can definitely recommend it. All right, find the ends on both my bobbins. Sometimes it can be tricky to find the ends on your bobbins. They like to hide. There it is. Put the ends through my leader. Make sure my the tension on my drive band is good. It's a little too loose. Okay, that's probably good. All right. And here we go. This part of making yarn is my favorite. I love plying. It's kind of when the color magic happens and you start to see what the finished yarn is really going to look like. It's definitely a really fun part of the process when it finally comes together to look like the finished yarn. There's kind of a slub here, so I want to wrap that a little bit differently. There we go. Sometimes when I have a spot where there's a slub in my yarn, I like to let the fatter piece of yarn wrap around the other ply a little bit differently. And so I'll sometimes back the twist off just a little bit when I come to a slub and fix it so that it looks a little bit nicer. Sometimes I don't. All right, let's take a look at how that finished yarn looks. Let's see if I can bring this over here so you can see it better. So that's how the yarn is looking as it's getting plied. I'm pretty happy with it. So I'm gonna go ahead and turn the camera off for a while because you don't need to sit here for the next hour and watch me ply yarn. I'll turn the camera off, and then when I get to the end of the bobbin that's less full, and I'm ready to make my center pull ball of yarn, then I'll turn the camera back on so you can see how that's done. Until then. I finished my center pull ball that I was winding from the singles on my bobbin, and so I'm ready to begin plying. Single ply yarns, especially when you're prepping them for spinning, they're very twisted. And there's a reason for that. Twist gives the yarn the strength to stay together. If they're not twisted enough, they fall apart. But also, you ply them in order to balance that twist. And so, when you're working from a center pull ball and plying from both ends, it tends to be tangly. I don't really know of any way to combat that. You just have to have some patience. So I've worked from a center pull ball for plying many times, and I have never had tangles so bad that I had to give up. I've had some frustrations, but it is doable. This end that I started with that's in the center has come a little bit untwisted as I was winding the ball, so I'm actually going to give it a little bit more twist before I start pulling on it, otherwise it might fall apart. Just twist it a little bit by hand, make sure that you're twisting it the correct direction so that you're not undoing its twist. And then I'm going to find the other end, which is here, put those two ends together, and and I didn't already put my leader through the orifice of my spinning wheel. That would have been good to do first, but we'll do it now. Okay, that was a little fiddly without letting go of my ends here. So I'm going to put my ends through my, whoops, they came apart. Pull this one out a little bit. Alright, so I'm going to put my ends through my leader, overlap them, and then I'm ready to start. I want to aim this down a little bit so you can see as I'm working with this in my lap how that's going. I need to tighten my drive band. That's probably good. Okay, now I'm ready. And I'm going to be pulling out of the center and from around the outside, and we've already got our first tangle because, as usually happens, the whole center of the skein came out. So I'm going to have to kind of work with that blob of yarn barf that came out of the middle as I start plying. That tends to happen, so I try not to make that center portion when I was doing the figure eights. I try not to do too much of that because that whole center portion likes to come out the first time. But I'll just be patient with that. And the other thing that happens as you're working on this is that the two sections of yarn going back to your skein, they tend to twist around each other as they come out. So then you also have a lot of twist going on in several different places, and so it makes for a lot of tangle. Okay. Hopefully once we get a little further in, there we go, we've worked through that center tangly spot, and now we're going a little more smoothly. So when it's going good, this is kind of how it goes. Pulling from the center and then pulling off from the outside at the same time. And they naturally want to twist around each other, so when things are going well, that's actually helpful. It's when you wind up pulling a whole bunch out of the center at one time that you wind up with tangles. Okay, and I'm going to change hooks on my flyer. Keep going. There's a little spot right there because it pulled out more than I wanted at one time. over twisted spot here. I'm going to straighten out. Oh, I need to change hooks on my flyer. There we go. Sometimes you can use your hand that's holding the ball of yarn to help you provide a little tension to pull out a spot that's twisted back on itself if you need to. Stop a minute and let it twist a bit more. So I've got a spot that's tangled here, so I'll stop a minute and work that out. There we go. Okay. And we're back in business. I'm still working on plying my yarn from this center pull ball, and I'm still going to be at it for a while, but I think that you can get the idea of how it works. When you come to the end of your spinning, your two ends are going to meet each other in the middle, and you're going to have a little loop of yarn at the very end, and you'll just cut that, and then your skein is finished with plying. And that's about all there is to it. I encourage you to like this video, subscribe to my channel, leave your comments about your spinning questions and experiences, and please share this video with your friends. Thanks.